Hey y'all, my name's Alice. I'm an alcoholic. Hey. Wallace, thank you for asking me to be up here. I can't resist his charms. I don't like to really be in the center of attention, but I couldn't resist, so that's why I'm here tonight. I've been a member of the Bronson home group next door since 2010 when I moved to the area. I joined the Fellowship of AA in December of 2009. And all of my sobriety, except for 1 month, has been in the Pinehurst area, because a month after I got sober, we moved back to North Carolina, which was good, get away from bad things. But so I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, in the Ocean View section, which is now real posh, but it wasn't very posh when I lived there, up on the Chesapeake Bay. And my parents worked really, really hard to give us a good college education, we went to private school, and they worked a lot to keep my sister and I in private school. My family life is not, it's rarely ever been happy. My parents fight, they're still together. I don't know how. They fight like cats and dogs. So I grew up thinking that's how, it's supposed to be. The woman screams and yells and throws things, and the man just, doesn't do anything. So I had absolutely no idea how to have a relationship with anybody. Even my grandparents were. My grandfather was a very active alcoholic, and he and my grandmother were never happy. So I didn't have any tools in my toolkit for good relationships. Therefore, I went through thousands. But let's see. I remember having my first sip of beer around the age, I think, of 7 or 8. My grandfather would want us to pour the beers in the cup, and then we'd always sneak a sip or two, and I always thought, that's gross, but it really does taste good in some strange way. And then I started drinking a little bit more often when I was about 13. I felt like, because I was at this private school, I felt like I was completely out of place. I mean, just totally, I felt, like everybody has kind of that same common denominator here in AA, that I just felt like I wasn't good enough and I wasn't part of anything. So I always had to try and do things to get my self-esteem up, and it was just all a farce. I mean, my family had no idea how much I drank. They knew that I went out on weekends and I drank and everything. But my mom would let us drink in the house when we were 16 years old. As long as the friends that came over would stay the night, or my mom had to assess them before they left, my friends could come over and drink. I mean, that's a felony now, right? I mean, what are you crazy letting 16-year-olds drink in your house? But my mom was 16 when she got married, so she didn't have a lot of tools either on what was the right thing to do. Let's see. I managed to get through high school. I played sports, but I was also one of the drinkers, a pothead, a jock. I kind of flew into every group, and I was able to keep it going with any group I was with. And because I would just kind of feed off of them what I'm supposed to be acting like or speaking like. So some of it was good and some of it wasn't so good. I always went out with guys that were older than me because it was easier for them to get beer. I was in that grandfather clause in Virginia about, when you turn 19, you're grandfathered in, or then it turns to 21. It was crazy, but I missed it. So all my booze was illegally obtained. And there was never a shortage of it because most of the kids I went to school with, their families were pretty rich. So somebody always had money for dry goods or, beer or Boone's Farm or Mad Dog, the finer wines. And so I drank, just continued drinking, got out of high school, said, thank God that's over. I loved all the social aspect of school, but I couldn't stand being in there. So I did graduate. I don't know how. I really don't know how, especially my senior year. I was really racking up the party points, but maybe they just wanted to get rid of me. I went to college. That only lasted 1 year. They don't give you a degree for majoring in cheerleading nor keg stands. So I was no longer qualified to achieve my diploma there. So then I went out into the working world and started drinking even more. I was still living at my parents' house. And at the age of 20, I still had a freaking curfew. I mean, she would let the kids come in the house and drink, but I couldn't stay out past, midnight, and I'm 20. So, but, living under their rules, I abided with that, which made me get married way too fast to a very wonderful person who I treated like crap because I was being my mom and he was being my dad. And it was terrible. He and I are good friends now, but it wasn't that way for a long time. But he's forgiven me for that, and for that I'm truly grateful for that, because he didn't deserve. I had a 10-month-old daughter with him when I met my next daughter's baby daddy, I guess. So this guy and I hooked up. We moved in together. I had my youngest daughter, Carly, who is actually getting married this month on the 28th. She's 19, so keep my fingers crossed. But I know from experience you can't tell them what to do because they'll just do the complete and opposite thing. So I went through a lot of really bad stuff with her dad, and I couldn't figure out why I kept staying. It was the same old, he hit me, but he says he's never going to do it again, all that crap. I mean, he used to come in the house stinking ass drunk, or go to work as a butcher after he drank vodka in his coffee. I don't know how he never managed to cut off a finger doing that. So he had the rabbit feet and he left, and that was nobody really mourned that at all. And during this time, I had my mom telling me that it was okay, that I wasn't a good mom, that some people aren't. And sorry. She talked me into letting my girls come and live with her, and I did. And although everything's good now, that was really hard. That was very hard. But I really didn't know what kind of life I was going to give them, because I didn't have a man in my life, which I thought I was supposed to, so he could take care of all that stuff and let me just do whatever I want to do. So I did, and that was really rough. And then, let's see. And from there, it got worse. So, years and years of partying, manipulating the heck out of people. I could manipulate anybody. Oh, I can't pay my rent. And somebody would be there with rent money for me. Or I manipulated. I used them to get what I wanted. Hey, I'm behind on a car payment, and somebody would help me with that. So I was very manipulative, which is a very horrible, horrible character defect, I think. It's very selfish. So let's see. I just used to I don't know how I never got a DUI. I drove a million times so drunk that I didn't remember driving home, or how you do. You get out in the morning, you check the car for dents or blood or, whatever you might have run into the night before. Checking the voicemail. Oh, God, I don't remember that one. And trying to act like I don't know. I was just funning you. I was just kidding around. I wasn't drunk. So, yeah, I definitely don't miss those mornings. So, gosh, I'm going to run out of things to say. Let's see. A few years ago, I let my youngest daughter know that she did have a different dad than her sister. And we eventually found him. We found him. And when she was 14, and he passed away a year after she got back in touch with him from alcoholism. And there's a lot of deaths by alcoholism in my family, so I wanted to stop right here. I don't want anybody else to go through this. It's terrible, but it has made me grateful. Which you hear a lot. People are grateful. I am grateful because I have to look at myself every day and see how I'm doing and not worry about your stuff. Matthew, I don't care what's on your side of the street, but I used to care. And I made it my business to know everything about everybody. And the side of my street was like Sanford and Son. It was just a mess. So I manipulated my dad out of money a few times, more times than I care to think about, and never paid him back. So I do have restitution there, which will come eventually if I ever get a job, or if my husband ever gets one. But one of us gets a job. I just lost my train of thought. Okay, I lost that train of thought. Anyway, I'm a little bit nervous, as you can tell. The last 2.5 years of my drinking career were 2.5 of the worst years of my life. We had moved temporarily up to New York, up to Queens is where my husband's family is. And we were having financial problems, so we decided, we'll move up to New York. You can get liquor on Sundays in New York. You can get beer or anything 24 hours a day. It's like a drunken paradise. Bars close at 3. There's another one open at 5. I mean, there's so many places to go. So many times that I went into the city and would come home on the train and not remember how I got home. That's a little scary when you think about some of the interesting people on the New York subway. It's a wonder I never got run over or pushed in the tracks or anything. I did have fun up there a few times when friends came to visit me. I liked that because they would stay just long enough where I could keep my drinking under control for about 2 or 3 days. After about 3 days, I'm sunk. I can't. Then you just see it because I can't hide it any longer. But when friends came, I had a good time because I had an excuse to go out and drink. I didn't have to, beg my husband, and I had a chance to get out of the house and go do things. Let me have my water. Sorry. Anyway, so that was always a good thing to have, was people that wanted to go out and party, because I was right there. And we met a few friends in New York, people that he didn't know, that we partied with when we got up there. And it's just ridiculous, the amount that I was drinking. I used to be a beer girl. Like, I could drink fellows under the table with cans of Bud Light. I was good at Bud Light. And wine. Of course, if I poured it in the pretty glass, I don't have a problem. If I drink it out of the bottle, then I might have a problem. Yeah. And so then when we moved to New York, I started with Seagram 7 and ginger ale. And I thought, ooh, that's good. And it really doesn't burn going down. So it was off to the races with liquor. It really was. And we knew the guy that ran the ABC, well, I don't know what they call him up there, ABC store. And they sit in there and smoke and drink, while they're working and everything. And so we would go in there and do the same thing and hang out at the liquor store and get drunk. How ladylike is that, My grandmother would be so proud of me. My husband never called me an alcoholic. He never asked me to stop drinking, but he did put rules on me, which, of course, I manipulated myself all through those rules. First it was like, we're only going to drink on Friday and Saturday. And so I made it to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I would just creep it up to close the gap just a little bit. Or if it was Tuesday and I wasn't allowed to drink till Friday, what can I make up? What kind of story can I make up that, oh God, I've had the worst day ever, I've got to have a drink. And so it was just lying to his face about the reasons I needed a drink, because I had to have a drink. I couldn't go that many days without getting shaky and sweaty and all those wonderful things. He drank with me on Friday and Saturday. He never drank with me on Sunday. He looked down on me all day Sunday because I was usually pretty much a mess by then. But he never asked me to stop. He just wanted me to control it. But he was there every time I wanted to go to the liquor store. So I kind of got mixed signals on him, because he didn't ask me to stop, and he's actually fueling the fire. So that was very confusing, and I think that's what held on. That's why I grasped onto those last 2 years so hard, because he wasn't really being mad at me for anything. He would get disgusted, of course, because I've seen pictures of what I look like drunk. It ain't pretty. It's like a whole different person when you look at the pictures. And he would do that on purpose. He'd take pictures through the night so that I could see how I degressed. And so, yeah, I always appreciated those. Delete, 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 delete. Yeah, that was pretty bad. So, I guess it was about August of 2009, still in New York, I said I think maybe the first time ever in my life, and of course it was to an empty room, and I called myself an alcoholic. I said, I think I'm an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm better than being an alcoholic. Those people are crazy. And my grandfather, I watched him struggle with AA to no avail. It was just a Bible cult, and they just wanted to reel you in and all these things, which is what I believed, of course, when I came into the program, but it wasn't true. I got to the point where I was hurting myself when I was drinking. I mean, through the years, I did that, took a few tumbles here and there, but the last 4 or 5 months, it was really bad. I would wake up and I'd have like serious bruises where I'd fallen, or I'd have like a knot on the back of my head where, I think I might have hit the kitchen counter when I fell, painful knots on my head. It's a wonder, I didn't fall off the balcony or anything, because I used to sit out there so I could smoke. I don't know how I managed to stay on the balcony. So it got to the point where when I was out with my husband's family, I could not drink at all because it would be on, especially from August to December. For some reason, that is just the absolute worst. And I didn't call my family. I didn't call anyone. And my husband didn't say anything. So I just kept on going. And I figured, well, I'll either die this way or I'll get better. But I softly said that. I didn't really mean that at the time because I wasn't ready. I hadn't hit my bottom yet. So yeah, family gatherings, no alcohol for me at all, because I wasn't able to maintain it, especially with wine. I drank a hell of a lot of wine, and again, out of the frou-frou glass, so I don't look too bad. It went from that to taking swigs out of my husband's vodka bottle in the freezer, the Grey Goose. It's like, God, if you're going to steal my booze, don't steal my Grey Goose. That's terrible. It's so expensive. But being the idiot that I am, I would replace that vodka with, what do you think? Water. And it freezes, and the jig is up. I could not believe how stupid I was when I poured it, thinking he's never going to notice it's water. And I never thought that it was going to freeze. Imagine my surprise when my husband's standing there holding the bottle. I'm like, ooh, geez, that's not going to be good. And I would even he would even mark his bottle, and I would try to erase that off and mark it somewhere different. I mean, he's not an idiot. He knew I was doing that stuff. But again, I guess he just didn't want that confrontation with me, because we got married in March of 2009. So he got me at my worst time, my worst years. And did I say 2009? We got married in 2006. But he never really saw me sober, but a handful of times. And I decided I was going to try and quit because I was losing where my bottles were. Or I'd find some hidden stash and there'd only be like that much drink left in the bottom of the bottle. But I remember, like, in my hiding place with empty bottles, I would go through them to see if there was any little bit of liquor left in them and pour them all into one. I usually ended up with about that much, and that would be good till I could, go find some more. It was crazy hiding bottles in New York because they have a very, very strong recycling program. Every piece of glass, every aluminum can, everything had to be outside. And if you put glass in a bag, they'll give you a $250 fine. There's actual employees in the city of New York that go around rifling through trash cans to make sure people are recycling the proper way. So I had a very big dilemma on how to get rid of all these bottles. So luckily I had a closet in our spare room that I only used for my clothes. It's also down in the deep depths down there was also hidden bottles, some with liquor in them, most not. And then I'd have shopping bags with empty bottles. And I had a lot. I should have counted them, but then maybe I don't want to know how many it was. So, so we had, I guess, so from August to December, I kept drinking like crazy. Around my birthday, my belly button birthday is December 9th. So I said, well, I'm going to stop drinking, on my birthday. And so I tried to do it by myself for like 24 whole hours, I was right back at it. I didn't even think that I'd made a promise to myself to quit. I just ignored it completely. And I must have just been in a strange state of mind when I said I was going to quit. And my husband had a job interview. They were meeting him in Jersey one night. And so even after I told him I was going to stay sober, I wasn't going to drink anymore, when his meeting in New Jersey was planned, boom, right into my head said, how can I go get some more vodka? Because I'm going to have one last bender. Because from now on, he's going to know. So I figured that I could get good and drunk early and, pass out respectable time, 30 minutes later. But so the night I tried to do it for myself, that didn't work because on December 10th, I was very upset and crying, and it was just awful. And he had gone to his meeting down in New Jersey, and so there I was, upset at the end of my rope, absolutely at the end of my rope, and drinking, and just kept drinking. This will all go away. Just keep drinking, and still can't put two and two together that the alcohol is killing me. So that night, I managed to pull off a really great drunk all by myself, and my husband came in at like midnight, and I was, of course, passed out. I always made it to the bed. I don't know how I did that, but he said I would just get up and walk out and go get in the bed without saying anything. I'm like, well, at least you didn't have to drag me across the house. So he woke me up with shouts of, did you burn your hair? Did you burn your hair? And I was like, open one eye. I'm like, what? No, leave me alone. I'm asleep here. He's like, you burned your hair. Damn sure if I didn't. So he pulls me up out of the bed, and I go into the bathroom, and I burned myself through this side of my face, and I'd also burned up a big old clump of hair too. That was really attractive while that was growing in. But that was awful. And I should have gone right then and there. I should have gone to detox. That should have been my final straw. I should have, had I known at the time that rehab and detox works for a lot of people, I probably would have gone there, but I didn't think it really would work. So on December 11th, I woke up at 4 a.m. and I just started begging and screaming for help. I was like, that's it. I can't do this anymore. 5 minutes after that, when I came out of my room with the yellow pages to look up AA meetings, I was still trying to find some hidden liquor in the house, even though I've got these humongous burns on my face, and that doesn't want to stop me. Like, how can this should stop anybody? Are the seagulls coming? Alfred Hitchcock. Oh gosh. So after I decided that day, December 11th, I called my sobriety date, because that night, I hadn't had anything to drink after midnight. So the next day, December 11th, I went to my first AA meeting. And I, of course, like we all were, terrified, absolutely mortified that I was going to stand out in the crowd and people were going to point at me and say, oh my God, what? But it didn't occur to me that all the people in the room were there for the same damn reason. And when they saw the bandages on my face, they probably knew that, I figured I kind of maybe blacked out a little holding a cigarette like this, and that's how I burned such an odd spot. But thank God I didn't get any scarring from it or lose permanent hair. That would be awful. So I went to my first meeting in Queens, and we were like the last people in the door because I was like, wait, let me have one more cigarette. I was so scared to walk through the doors, and I did, and sitting in the back, terrified, crying, the whole 9 yards. My husband was with me, even though it was a closed meeting, but we didn't know what that meant at that time, but they didn't kick him out, so that was good. And then I'm like, how do they know I'm a newcomer? It's stamped on your forehead next to the bandage on your head. So that was pretty interesting. He actually saw some childhood friends in that meeting too, which was weird. And he's like, I need to go up to them and tell them I'm not the alcoholic. I was like, shut up! I know I'm bad, but God, don't totally disassociate yourself. Oh, God, that was funny. And I had a man bring me a meeting list, and up there it's like a book. It's a pamphlet. They have 24/7 meetings up in that area, and big meetings like the size of this group would be a discussion group. So we'd all have to break off into tables and stuff. But when at the end of the meeting, when they handed out chips, I didn't take my chip because it was a 24-hour chip, and I had not been sober for 24 hours, and I didn't feel right taking it. And it worked out well. So I didn't get a white chip. Up there they have the 24-hour chips. So I couldn't wait to get there the next week so I could finally pick up a 24-hour chip. And was I going to make it to next week? That was the big thing. So this man handed me the booklet, and he got the ladies to write down phone numbers, and a couple of ladies took me under their wing and, stay away from that one, point out because there's odd people up there. But the thing about AA that amazes me is the first time I said my name's Alice and I'm an alcoholic, wow, that felt good. Just get it out. I've told people. So now I have it. I can't take it back. So I am an alcoholic for the rest of my life. And right now I wouldn't want it any other way. So about a month in, my husband got a job down here in Pinehurst. I'm from North Carolina pretty much. I've been here for like 25 or 26 years. So instead of moving to Raleigh, we moved to Pinehurst because that's where his job was. And it's absolutely beautiful here. So we moved here in January of 2010. And so I still had bandages on my head and the whole 9 yards. Had to figure out how to pack up all the liquor bottles and ship them from New York to North Carolina, which I did. I would, for a while, I would take like 3 or 4 and drive down to the gas station or something and find a big trash can and throw them away. So I was doing that all over town and still had too many bottles. So I actually did. I took the dresser drawers and I laid them all with bottles, and then I put all the clothes on top of them, and then they wrapped the drawers and everything. So I probably transported about 60 bottles with me, which costs money, because it's by weight. And they sure weren't full. So, because I didn't want to embarrass myself. Yeah, too late, right? And so yeah, that was fun, transporting those and trying to wait. I did like twice a week, would throw them out. I wouldn't throw them out all at the same time because that's too much clatter for the neighborhood. They didn't want to hear that. So when I got here to Pinehurst, I was really scared because I'd only been in this thing for a month and like 8 days or something. And I felt very relieved that we were coming back to North Carolina because I felt like I'd have much better sobriety in a smaller area than even if we went to Raleigh. So we moved here and I started going to some of the meetings. My very first meeting down here was a women's group meeting at the Aberdeen building. I can't even remember like what day of the week it was or anything. But I wasn't welcomed. Nobody shook my hand. Nobody gave me a hug, asked me what my name was. And I'm like, is this really how it's going to be? Of course, I didn't take the step forward, which I probably should have just done that. But I felt like, no, you're supposed to welcome me. So that really left a bad taste in my mouth as far as the Aberdeen building. And I carried quite a little resentment for quite a while because of that. Because my next meeting was across over here at the Bronson Church. And I've never been hugged so much. It was awesome. So I was really glad to see that all of AA in this area is not the same as my first meeting experience. So it was just really good being in these rooms, and everybody seemed so genuine. And now that I have some time under my belt, I realize we don't just seem that way. I mean, we give our free time to each other and out in the community when we can. And we do so many good things. I had no idea that AA could be such an environment and a very, very comfortable place for me to be on a daily basis. I try to make about 6 to 7 meetings a week sometimes. Sometimes I'll take a night off, like tonight. No. But I have met some tremendously wonderful people in this program. But the thing that really shocks me is that on one day, I'm so drunk and blacked out and passed out and on fire for drinking, and then looking for some more drink, and the next day being relieved of the desire. That was my first miracle. I did not have a craving for it. I didn't want it. I think that bottom was bottom enough, because next time I could just not wake up. What if I burn the house down? So that put a big reality slap on me. So I was very grateful to have that pink cloud for a little while, because it really helped with the adjustment on moving down here and establishing where I'd like to go. Bounced around to a lot of meetings, and I have my core meetings. I've been coming to Primary Purpose on Monday nights for a couple of months. Somebody just told me go. I was like, okay, I'll go. I don't go to a meeting on Monday. So, and they were starting, the big book study was starting right before chapter 1. So I said, excellent. I can read the big book the way it's supposed to be read, not the way I read it. So we started at the very first, I think it was the very first chapter when I got here. And so I am really enjoying that big book group. I've learned a lot. I've read the big book probably 2 or 3 times, and I've never seen the words that were printed on the page, I guess, because I'm reading everything and looking at it a whole lot differently than I did before. Because, 3.5 years or so is still kind of new and fresh, and still really learning a lot about the program and how to check myself and make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And I couldn't do it without any of you in this room. I mean, there's people that have no idea how much they've touched me with something that they've said. And that's a real miracle, because especially for someone who felt like, she was never wanted, never needed, never this, never that, always this, always that. I always feel welcome when I come into these rooms. And if I had known that quitting drinking was going to be the easiest thing, I don't know, because it was easy to quit drinking. Living my life, however, has been something quite unique, trying to live life on life's terms with nothing in my toolbox. So I've been working on filling that up, and keep losing my train of thought. Anyway, but when I got here and I got a little bit more familiar with people back then, I started doing service work like crazy, making coffee, setting up. Of course, it wasn't under the halo of cigarette smoke, because unfortunately we don't smoke in AA meetings anymore. So, a lot of service work. If you're new, heck, if you've been here a long time and haven't been doing service work, I strongly suggest that you do some, because I met more people by being at the meeting early and staying at the meeting a little bit later. I've formed friendships that I didn't know I would have, because it can't just be we walk in, sit down, do our thing, and walk out the door. That's not it. It's more than that. It's much more than that, because something that somebody says could help somebody, it could kill somebody. I mean, it could do anything. There's people that are so vulnerable in the beginning that if somebody said something really nasty, you don't know if they'd ever come back. So that's why I like it, because we're always seem to be having fun. It does look insane when everybody's laughing when you're coming into AA. I will agree with that statement, because it's like, this can't be AA. Everybody's laughing, you know, the same thing that everybody thinks, which is great, because I didn't know I was going to be able to laugh. And I really thought I was never going to have fun again. But I've had more fun since I gave it up, because it was just too hard to live that way. It was way too hard to live that way. I had to plan everything, schedule everything, you know. It was so difficult, especially with the bottles and just I didn't tell my husband about those bottles until one day when I was discussion leader at the hospital meeting. And I was going to talk on insanity, and I was going to mention the empty bottles thing. And then I remember, oh, crap, my husband's here. So I ran over and I talked to him. I said, I'm getting ready to say something that you don't know, so don't get mad, okay? And I went and sat back down. So when I said it about moving the bottles, he was like, oh my God. I think he was way more embarrassed than I was. But I was like, you know, I can't believe I did that, but I have to tell you right now, because I can't just say it, because he'd probably get out, what the F is, what are you talking about? I don't let him come hear my story, because it's none of his business. My sobriety is his business, not my past, strewn with, you know, manipulation, promiscuity, you know, anger, hate, the whole 9 yards. He doesn't need to know all that stuff. He learned enough when we first were together. He doesn't need to learn the back pages. Those can just go away. Trying to live in the moment, and I try to teach him how to live in the moment too, because we're, you know, both unemployed at this time, so it's hard to stay focused. And it's hard not to think of a little bit in the future, but got to reel it back in a little bit. I mean, you do have to think of the future in a lot of things, but just sometimes slowing down is a really good idea. And I believe he's learned more from AA than he would have ever learned from Al-Anon, and not an Al-Anon buster he is. He went to New York, to one in New York, and he couldn't stand it, because the women there had to sneak out of their houses because their men would beat them up if they found out. I mean, so that's the taste of it he got. I really want to get him to an Al-Anon meeting here, because what I understand is it's very, very good, Al-Anon. So hopefully I can get him in and doing that. I've attended a couple of the fall assemblies I did a spring and a fall in Raleigh, and I would just sit there around 500 fellow AAs and go, just what a miracle. What an absolute miracle this is. I was just, you know, a bungling mess not that many years ago, and here I am representing a group at a conference. It was amazing. Like, how did they know I'm even going to show up? What is this going to be like, you know? So I like everybody, shoot. And from there it got worse. Anyway, going around, back to if you're a beginner or, you know, under 5 years, definitely get into service work, sponsorship, things like that. I have a very nice circle of friends and male and female, that I can bounce things off of, that I trust. I know it's supposed to be girls, girls, boys, boys, but I've probably heard more good things from the men in the programs, because they said they keep it real. Not that the women don't, but there's just something about the men who are showing their feelings so openly and willing to other people, willing to knock down the, you know, I'm a man thing. So that's always good. So we're going to finish a little bit early because, or should I say anything else? Well, you know, I had my scheduled meetings that I always went to, and the reason I decided to come to a different one when I came here was that I felt like I was getting too comfy in some of those meetings, hearing the same thing over and over and over again. And so I started coming to meetings that I didn't go to before, and that has been very interesting. And I'm trying to promise myself to go to the 11th step meeting Sunday. I've been trying to do that for the last 3 weeks, but I've been like, oh, I don't want to get up. It's Sunday. But from what I understand, they have a good group on meditation. So meditation and prayer. If it wasn't for prayer, I don't know what would happen. My higher power is totally in control because I am no good in control. And like a lot of people, I had to redefine my description of God as I saw him. And one of the members told me, it doesn't have to be, the God, the hallelujah and that whole thing. Not the God that throws you into, a hell pit if you have sinned in your life. I've never liked that. And my family was Baptist, half was Lutheran, and I just couldn't stand the thought of, I did something wrong, so now I'm going to go to hell. Awesome. How am I supposed to get into heaven this way? So it's taken a long time, but I realized that my higher power is with me all the time. And man, that is a good feeling, because once my brain starts getting a little bit swirly, things don't happen very well for me. Even in sobriety, things can still get all messed up. But just keep coming back, and that's so true. It's so simple, but it's so true. And how it works, no idea. I don't care, because I love it. And if we ever figured out how this system works, it might not be as awesome. I like the mystery of it, of people from, Skid Row, all those things, Park Avenue, Park Bench, all that stuff is so true. I mean, there's a lot of people in here that we probably wouldn't know each other. We probably wouldn't hang out together unless we were drinking in the same bar. But it's very interesting on how it affects everybody a little bit differently. So definitely service work, one day at a time, prayers, sponsorship, things like that are very important. And being there for the next alcoholic who asks you a question. And even if you're not sure of an answer, you can check with your sponsor and see if this answers, is this okay? Yes, absolutely fine. Or no, don't ever say that to anybody. So, and that's really good. It's refreshing to know on my contact list on my phone that I've got, I don't even know how many people's phone numbers in AA. I just hit one of those. If I don't get somebody, hit the next one. Kind of like Bill W. when he was trying to find Dr. Bob. Just, go to the next one, go to the next one. So with that, I'm going to read this little piece that I wrote in January of 2012. I had these, of course, the squirrely brain, thinking, but I was thinking about this disease and what it was like. So this is a year ago, and it's called The Beast Inside Me. There's a beast living inside me, asleep for now, but he can hear my thoughts and waits with an extraordinary patience to be awakened once again. This beast knows no race or gender, or if you are rich or poor. It doesn't always strike right away. We are born with him inside us, and he waits patiently until we feed him with our first drink. He can be satisfied with that for a while, but after time, he'll want more and more. You don't know about the beast until it awakens the day of our first drink. When his thirst can no longer be satisfied, he attacks with brute force, bringing even the strongest of people to their knees. This beast, so powerful and cunning, tells us that everything is all right. We are just living just fine. The beast lives on alcohol and the pain and melancholy that go with it. Sometimes it takes a lifetime to find a way to make the beast sleep again. All of us who gather together in fellowship cause the beast to hide. He hates love, fellowship, forgiveness, and prayer. The more we gather together, the deeper his sleep. It still whispers in my ear that I'd be happier if I had a drink, but I quiet him down with prayers, and I always remember my last drunk and how far down I was. The beast and another will sometimes attack, and the person has to fight and struggle. Do anything they have to so they can come back to us. Some of the bravest people I know are the ones who walk up and pick up another white chip. It gives me chills. I can picture my beast sometimes curled up inside me, patiently waiting. He whispers that I don't have a problem, but yes, I do. I have a disease that wants me dead. Thank you.